Our application is coming along quite well, but we want to add the ability for our user to make a review of this product, which means we need to add a form which can collect user input. Let's learn how to do that. We'll start off making a new component called product review, because this is where our product reviews are going to happen. So far, we just have an input in our template and then this name data below. We want whatever the user types into the input to be bound to this name data. In lesson 2, we learned about binding with vbind, but that was only for one-way binding, from the data to the template. But now we want whatever the user inputs to be bound to name in our data. In other words, we want to add a dimension of data binding from the template to the data. Vue's vModel directive gives us this functionality called two-way data binding. Now, whenever something new is entered into the input, the data changes. And whenever the data changes, anywhere using that data will update. Back in our project, you can see that within the product component, we are nesting the product review component. Let's look at that product review component in action. As you can see, it has the input with vModel. With the Vue DevTools open and looking within the data of the product review component, we can see that VueModel is working. It is storing whatever we type into the input field. Also, we can change that data, let's say to Anthony, and when I hit enter, it'll save that value and that value will update in the input field. So we can see that the two-way data binding is working with vModel. Now that we understand the basics of vModel, let's switch out this input with an entire form. Now we'll give our product review component some new data with review and rating. And then we'll use vModel to bind this data to our inputs. We'll go up here and we'll say vModel equals name. Then on our text area, we'll say vModel equals review. And on our select here, we're going to say vModel equals rating, but we're going to say .number. This is a modifier that will make sure to typecast this value as a number. Now we can refresh and test it out. Here in the DevTools, we can click on the product review component to see its data. Looks like our name input is working. Our review input is also working. And our rating selector is working too. But we haven't yet told this form what to do when we click submit. Up here on the form element itself, we'll add an event listener @submit, and that will trigger a method called onSubmit. We'll write that in a moment, but first, let's add the event modifier called .prevent. This will prevent the default behavior. In other words, the page won't refresh when we submit this form. Since we're not posting out to some external API, we won't have any action here either. Now let's add that onSubmit method. OnSubmit will create a variable containing an object which we'll create using our data. So the value of name will be this.name from our data, the value of review will be this.review, and the value of rating will be this.rating. Below that, we'll set this.name, this.review, and this.rating all to null, so our values are reset whenever we submit this form. Great, so now when we click submit on the form, this product review object will be created, but we're not sending it anywhere. Since it's a review for our product, it would make sense to send it up to our product component, which is our parent. As we learned in the previous lesson, we can send up a custom event using this.$emit. We'll call the event review submitted, and the value we'll send up along with it is product review. Now we need to scroll up to where our product review component is nested within product, and we'll listen for review submitted here. And when that happens, it'll trigger the method addReview. We haven't yet built that out, so let's add that to the methods of our product component. addReview will take in product review, and inside we'll say this.reviews.push product review. So we'll be able to push the product review into the reviews array on our product component, which we'll add now. Let's refresh and make sure this works. We'll fill out the form here with all of the data. Then when we hit submit, we can click on product. And as you can see, we do have one review, and it's populated with the information that we just submitted. Great, we got it to work. Now our user can type into these inputs. Those values are saved within the data of our product review component, and when we submit this form, that sends up that data as a product review object to our parent, the product component, which adds that review to its reviews array. Now that we have the ability to add a review to our product component, now let's add to the template of our product component so it can display those reviews. As you can see, I've started to build out that part of the template. We have a div with an h2 and a p tag inside of it. And we want to add an unordered list. On the li inside of it, we'll use the v-for directive and we'll say review in reviews. And then we'll print out review. When we refresh the page, we'll make a new review. Once we submit that review, we can see that we are displaying that review, but we're just showing it as an object. So an easy way to fix that is to use dot notation like so. This way, we can display the name, rating, and review in a more human-readable format. Now let's refresh and make another review and see how it displays. Great, it's working. But we're still showing there are no reviews yet. So on this p tag, let's use v-if, and this is saying that we'll only show this p tag if the reviews array has nothing in it. Now when we do have a review, we no longer display that p tag. Often, our forms will have required fields. For example, we wouldn't want our user to be able to submit a review if the field they were supposed to write their review in is empty. Fortunately, with HTML5, you can use the built-in required attribute, like so. This will provide an automatic error message when the user tries to submit the form if that field is not filled in. While it's nice to have form validation handled natively in the browser, sometimes the way that the native form validation is happening may not be the best for your use case. Instead, you might want to write your own custom form validation. So let's take a look at how we can do that. We'll remove the required attribute, and we'll start off by building this custom form validation by adding to our data. We'll add an errors array to collect the errors, and where we want to catch those errors is in our onSubmit method. Before creating our product review object here and then emitting it, we want to check and make sure that we have our name, review, and rating all filled in, which we can do here in this if statement. If we don't have each of these values filled in, then we can add those errors to our errors array. We can write that simply by saying if not this name. So if we don't have this name, then we'll push into our errors array this error message, name required. Now we can copy and paste this code and just change out name for review and for rating. Now our onSubmit method makes sure that we have all these values filled out, and if we don't, then it will collect the appropriate errors. Now all that's left is to display those errors. So up in our template, we'll add a p tag, and we'll use the v-if directive and check if errors has a length, meaning if errors is not empty, then we'll display this content. We'll add a string that says please correct the following error or errors, and then we'll print out a list. So within this li, we'll use the v-for directive and say error in errors, and then print out each error from our errors array. Now let's refresh our page and test this out. If I add a name and a rating, but I don't add a review, when I hit submit, it works. We're getting this error message, review required. Awesome, now we've added basic form validation to our app and can even print out the errors. For this lesson's challenge, add a question to the form, would you recommend this product? Take in the response with radio buttons and add it to the product review object with form validation.